Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with daily technical update. It is Tuesday the 7th of January and today we'll start with Amazon, but let me just highlight that these webinars are for educational purposes only. There's no recommendation or advice whatsoever of this, despite the fact that I talk about trends and direction and all that. I'm just trying to educate you how you can use technical analysis and apply it to your trading and investment strategies. But let's go back to Amazon this morning. Yesterday it closed above the falling trend line where it has this pennant. You can see this is like a wedge-like pattern, but it's called a pennant when it's a short-term correction pattern. It closed above the upper falling trend line and could now be set for higher levels. Here we can see on the weekly chart where after reaching the 161.8 projection of this massive correction here back in Q3, it reached the 231 and a change, and it could now be set for higher levels, especially if the weekly RSI closes above the upper falling trend line here, where it's actually showing divergence or imbalance in the market, meaning a trend exhaustion. But if it does close above that, and if Amazon also takes out the previous all-time high here, 233, well then the road is paved towards 240, 250. For this bullish pattern to be demolished, it needs to break back below 218 and 215.90. That would totally demolish this bullish picture. On the S&P 500 index, well, it failed to close above the 6,000 level yesterday. Let's just zoom in here. It did spike above, but failed to close above. So still a little bit of a limbo. We are above the cloud. We are above all moving averages, but the sentiment on the RSI is still negative. It hasn't closed above 60 threshold. But if we get a close above, and let's just add that line here so we can see it there. If it does close about 6,050, I think we will see the RSI closing it back above 60 threshold. Then there is potential to much higher levels for S&P 500. Key support here, 5,832. Well, actually the key one in 5,864. The other one here is in the gap. And if it starts taking out that, well, then the 5,883, that is also very key support, will be taken out. And then we have a completely different situation. On the Nasdaq 100, that fared a little bit better with a close above 21,500, 559 and a bit to be exact. Positive sentiment on the RSI, no divergence as this peak here is the highest one corresponding to this peak here or this all-time high. So I think we'll see a new all-time high, especially if we get the RSI back above 60 threshold and Nasdaq takes out that peak there back in the Christmas period, the 26th of December at 21,838. Then we will see new all-time highs above 22,000 possibly. Let's just for argument's sake, have an idea of what we're talking about. Well, probably somewhere in the region of 23,000 could be seen here towards end of January if that scenario plays out. If it slides back below 20,896, well, then this bullish potential bullish pattern has been demolished. 42,220 still key support, and it really needs to get back above the cloud. And here the Dow Jones index, it needs to get back above the cloud. Close above 43,374 will establish a bullish trend. There is no divergence on a negative RSI, so we are a little bit in a limbo here. So I'll be waiting and see for the foreseeable future with the Dow Jones index. Let's just talk about Seng once again today. We can see it sliding lower, 1.7% down this morning. Could be testing 19,000 fairly shortly. If it takes out that, well, then we're looking at levels around 18,300, 18,200. So it's quite. It has established a bearish trend, and also we can see the RSI is back below 40 threshold, indicating lower levels. EuroStoxx 50 had a very good day yesterday, taking out 49.16 resistance with a bang, pushed higher towards 5,000, RSI back above 60 threshold. It was especially semiconductors like ASML, Infineon and others that pushed market higher, but also some banks were were having a field day yesterday, and it could continue today. If it takes out 5,000, and especially if it takes out the previous peak there at 5,007 and a change, 5,008, well, then there's potential up to 5,100 level. Pre-market fairly unchanged, but we're also in early session. So DAX also pushed higher yesterday. Very close to close this gap, 20,242, if it does that today. And if RSI closes back above 60 threshold, well, then I think we will see a new all-time high pushing towards 21,000. And what I will do, I will remove this Fibonacci there and say, okay, if we get if this scenario plays out, well, then we are looking at 21,000 and a change, I think, towards the end of January. So really key levels to look out for. Also CAC very strong yesterday, also posted higher with some semiconductors, banks, and LVMH. Testing resistance at 74.52. I think it can push higher. We are in positive sentiment, and if RSI closes back above 60 threshold, then I think we'll see 7,500 beats taken out with a push up to 7,600. Euro dollar has bounced and towards the 104.60 resistance, and I added this falling trend line here this morning after the spike up yesterday. It could take it out. If it does that, well, then there's potential higher, and if it takes out 104.60, then we could be looking at towards 106, but there will be strong resistance here up in that region here around 106 and a change, and I don't think we will see that being taken out, but it's not unlikely. You shouldn't rule it out because we actually have divergence here on the RSI indicating we had this trend exhaustion. If it's being rejected, and it could then slide back lower in the coming days. So it's a little bit of a limbo at the moment after this this bounce it is working on. On cable, also a strong bounce towards 126, 126.10, where we have some resistance above the falling trend line here. We could see a push higher if it takes out 126. 12.15, well, 127 level, and just as a little bit of guidance, it's not a clear-cut downtrend, but a little bit of guidance. Well, we could see a push up to the 61.8 retracement, possibly up to the 786 retracement, 127 and a change, but 61.8 here at 126.36 we could see. If it's being rejected and slide lower, I don't think it will happen, but let's see. If it does slide back below this falling trend line here, downtrend could resume. Euro sterling is still no clear direction. We are still in a bearish trend in this falling wedge-like pattern here, and it really needs to take out first of all close above the falling trend line and then back above the cloud and 83.75. So for now it could still slide back lower to test the 82.5, 82.25. Dollar yen is testing its peak here at 158.09, and I think I will remove this so it's actually clear what's going on. It could push higher, but it needs to close above 158 and a bit. RSI is still in a showing divergence. You can see this peak here is lower than this one, and this was higher than this one, so there is a little bit divergence, but we're still in positive sentiment if RSI takes out the falling trend line here, and dollar yen is pushing higher, taking out today's high. I would say taking out today's high at 158.42. Well, then I think we will see the bullish trend being re-established. If it slides back and takes out 155.95, then a larger correction could be seen. But you can see here all the moving averages are rising, indicating we are likely to see higher levels on the dollar yen. On the euro yen, also pushing towards key resistance here just around 165. If it takes out that, well, then we are looking at 168 level in the coming weeks. Key support here 160.90, and really key support here 159.80. Aussie yen, a little bit more undecided, trying to push higher, but we have the resistance here at the 55 moving average. We have the RSI still below 60 threshold, but if we get a close above 99.40 and RSI above 60 threshold, then it could push higher towards 102 and a half, and that will also be confirmed by a close above the cloud. Sterling yen, also pushing higher towards the previous peaks here, and if it can take out, which I actually think it will test the 198.96 and 199.70 previous peak. If we adjust that, we can actually see what the previous peak was exactly. It was 199.95, so just below 200. And positive sentiment on the RSI, no divergence, indicating we are likely to see at least a test of these resistance levels here, but I wouldn't be surprised if they also take them out. And if that scenario plays out, well, then we are looking at levels in the region of 202, 202.60, maybe even 203. Aussie dollar also bouncing fairly strongly, testing upper falling trend line. That actually spiked above yesterday, could have another go today, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it moving back to 63.35 resistance, possibly all the way up to 38.2 retracement at 63.75. That could be the first little bit of struggling area here. We have the 55 moving average coming down. We have the 100 that broke below the 200. Both were declining. So the overall sentiment and trend is bearish. But we were just in exhaustive mode. So but a correction up to around this level here is in the cards. If it slides, if it fails to break above that and it slides back and it testing the 61.85 support or the lower levels here at 61.70, well then it is also likely to take it out and then move lower. On dollar Canada, really volatile yesterday after Prime Minister resignation, spiked below and also closed below the 143.35 support. It's not strong support, but still it is significant enough to, I think we will see it sliding lower to 142.20, which is the 38.2 retracement. There is no divergence on the RSI, however, so I don't think this correction will be that big. And if it closes back above 143.35, then it could try to crawl higher in the coming days. So a little bit of a limbo here also. Keep an eye on this level, what's going on here the next couple of days. Will it slide back lower here or not? Sterling Canada, also fairly volatile, but without any clear direction. The past few days, I mean, we are bearish, we are below the support, we have this shoulder, head, shoulder pattern unfolding, but still the 178 and the cloud area is holding on. Still positive sentiment on the RSI. But if it takes out these lows here at 178, well, then expect a sell-off down to 176.80, possibly lower. Moving on to the Swiss franc, Euro Swiss, slowly crawling higher. I think we could see a test of this 94.50 resistance here fairly shortly. We are above the cloud. We are in a positive sentiment on the RSI. If it takes out 94.50, we could see a push to around 95 level. And we are higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. We are in a bullish trend, at least short term. Dollar Swiss is in a corrective phase. Taking out the steep rising trend line, I think we'll see a test of 89.85 support area here, and this 38.2 retracement in this area here. If it drops below that, well, then we could see a sell-off down to around 89 and the 88.87, which is 61.8 retracement of this leg up here. If it bounces off from this support, well, here, then uptrend is likely to resume. And the dollar index, well, almost similar to the dollar Swiss, testing the minor support at 107.55, bounced, but it could have another go. And then the key support is 107.31, and then if it takes out that, well, you could see a correction down to 106.25, which is the 786 retracement. So that is in the cards, but if it can bounce off and then start crawling higher, crawling back here, well, then uptrend is likely to resume. Not much going on in gold at the moment. Still just trading sideways below the 55 moving average and the cloud area here, but the lows here has been higher, so we have a very short-term bullish trend, but a little bit of limbo between the rising trend line 100 moving average and the 55. It really needs to break out in either direction, and it needs to break above the cloud area here and the 55 moving average for a push to 27.21. If it takes out the rising trend line, then we could see a test of very key support at 75.46. Interesting development on the silver spot. that this morning, well, actually yesterday, it spiked above the minor resistance, confirming a double bottom-like pattern, and continuing this morning, it seems there is now potential up to the 31 region here of this double bottom-like pattern. Divergence on the RSI is indicating a downtrend exhaustion, so I think we'll see a push up to that around that level. Copper also could be forming a double bottom pattern here. You can see a couple of times testing around 400 level, but it needs to take out 433.50 to confirm that. But what it does at the moment, a very strong bounce towards the 61.8 retracement to 421, and could push up to the 786 at 426.45. So keep an eye on this level, but if it takes out 43.50, then we are in for a move towards a 450 level. If it fails to do so, well, then it could slide back and test the 400 level once again. On the WTI and Brent crude oil, pausing a little bit. WTI spiked higher yesterday, probably could test the 72.80, 72.50 and the upper part of the cloud here before I think it will push higher. Positive sentiment on the RSI, no divergence indicating likely higher levels on WTI, same picture on Brent crude oil, really. Same picture, of course, with a push higher here in the coming days and weeks, I think towards the 200 moving average and 80 level. We are in a bullish trend short term. What is not in a bullish trend short term, we are in a correction phase, is Dutch TTF gas, very close to the 38.2 retracement at 46.34. If it bounces from that, then uptrend is likely to resume. There's bullish sentiment on the RSI, no divergence indicating likely higher highs, but it is extremely volatile. But if we take a step back and look at the weekly chart, there's still potential up to the 56, 57 strong resistance area. It's just a question about, I think, how deep will the correction be? Will it also slide back to 45, maybe even 43, 50 level? Henry Hub, nat gas, indecisive. It's still key that it closes above $4 to establish another bullish move, and for now it doesn't really do that. So I think it will be range bound around these levels, $3.25 to $4 here for the next few days, maybe weeks. On yields, US Treasury yields, the 10-year spiked higher to 464.6. Testing the resistance area here at 463.6, 464. There is a slightly divergence here. You can see this value here is lower than this one over here, but this close was actually higher than this. So there's a little bit of short-term trend exhaustion, but it needs to take out 451, 450 for a corrective move down to around 440, 435. All moving averages are rising, and as we can see on the weekly, we are in a bullish trend towards 473. But it will not be a slam dunk, but we are in a bullish trend with positive sentiment on the RSI, indicating likely higher levels on US 10-year yields. The 2-year yields, we can see that it's range bound between, it's still range bound between 415 and 438. The EuroBund future keeps sliding lower towards the 786 retracement, 131.85, which I think it could test within the next couple of days. It is in a bearish trend, negative sentiment on the RSI, and you can see here that it could actually slide lower to test the lower part of cloud, maybe even the lower rising trend line there. For this picture to change, well, it really needs to get back above the cloud and back above 133.50. On the gilts, UK gilts, well, UK gilts future could take out the, if it does take out the previous lows here at 91.64, well, then we are looking at 91 and 90 level. Bitcoin is back above 100,000, pushing higher, and I think we will see a retest of all-time high here, just above 108,388. We have resumed bullish trend. RSI back above the 60 threshold, indicating likely higher levels. So very strong move indeed. Ethereum lacking a little bit, but did test the 61.8 retracement at 37.22. If it takes out the peak from yesterday at 3,746, well, then I think we'll see a move towards 4,100. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day and talk to you again tomorrow.